The rain lashed against the windows of the small-town diner, painting streaks down the glass like tears from the sky. Inside, the warm glow of the overhead lights cast a cozy contrast to the storm outside. Clara, a black waitress in her mid-50s, moved between tables with practiced grace, her smile kind despite the fatigue etched into her features from years of long shifts. It was just another slow, quiet night, until she saw them. Two children stood just outside the diner window, their clothes drenched, their eyes wide and hollow with hunger. The girl clutched the boy's hand tightly, both of them shivering from the cold. Clara's heart clenched. She didn't need to ask questions, she recognized desperation when she saw it. Without hesitation, she walked to the door, opened it, and waved them in. "Come on, babies," she said gently. "You don't need to be out there tonight." The children hesitated for only a moment before stepping inside, their shoes squishing with water. Clara guided them to a corner booth, brought out towels to dry them, and disappeared into the kitchen. A few minutes later, she returned with 2 steaming bowls of soup and slices of warm apple pie, comfort food for 2 little souls who looked like they hadn't been comforted in a long time. The kids ate in silence at first, too hungry to talk. Clara watched from behind the counter, pretending to wipe down menus, but really just making sure they were okay. When they finally slowed down, the boy looked up and whispered, "Why are you helping us?" Clara smiled, her voice soft and unwavering. "Because I've been hungry, too. And sometimes, it's not about what you have, it's about what you give when someone needs it most." She didn't expect thanks. She didn't even expect to see them again. After making a quiet call to a local shelter she trusted, she returned to sit with them until someone came to take them somewhere safe. The kids were quiet, but the girl reached out and held Clara's hand tight for just a moment. That was enough. As the children left, Clara watched the door slowly close behind them, unaware that her small act of kindness would echo far beyond that rainy night. The rain had stopped by morning, leaving the streets damp and glistening under the early sun. A cool breeze drifted through the town, rustling fallen leaves and quieting the hum of the waking day. Outside the diner, Clara stood with her arms folded, watching as a social worker gently guided the 2 children toward a waiting van. The siblings, now in dry clothes the shelter had provided, paused before climbing in. The younger girl turned and waved shyly. Her eyes, though tired, carried the warmth of someone who'd been seen, really seen, for the first time in a long while. Clara smiled and waved back, her heart heavy and full all at once. The older boy, Daniel, stepped forward. He was quiet but determined, his small shoulders squared as if trying to hold the weight of the world. He looked up at Clara, his eyes shining with something deeper than gratitude. "Thank you," he said softly. "For everything." Clara reached out, brushing a strand of hair from his forehead. "You just take care of your sister, all right?" "I will," he nodded firmly. Then, after a pause, he added, "One day, I'll come back." She chuckled, not unkindly, and gave his hand a gentle squeeze. "You don't worry about that, sweetheart. Just be safe, be good." But Daniel didn't forget. As he climbed into the van, he kept looking back at her through the window, holding her gaze for as long as he could. Clara stood there until the van turned the corner and disappeared from sight. She exhaled slowly, her hands resting on her apron, the morning sun warming her skin. Though the booth where they had sat was now empty, a quiet glow lingered in her heart. She had given them food, warmth, and a moment of dignity, but somehow, they had given her something too. As she turned to head back into the diner, she whispered to herself, "They left with full bellies, and a piece of my heart." The years rolled on like quiet pages turning in a book no one else seemed to read. Clara's life settled into a familiar rhythm, early mornings, long shifts at the diner, and quiet evenings in her modest home tucked at the edge of town. The house was small but tidy, with a creaky porch swing and flower pots she tended every spring. It wasn't much, but it was hers. Inside the diner, little had changed. Clara still wore her name tag like a badge of honor and treated every customer like family. Truckers, single moms, lonely elders, she served them all with the same gentle warmth. She refilled coffee before they asked, slipped free slices of pie to the struggling ones, and always made time to listen. But as the seasons passed, so did her youth. Her once smooth hands grew lined and tired, her back bent slightly from years on her feet. Still, her heart never wavered. She remained a quiet pillar of the town, steady, kind, invisible to most. Every now and then, her thoughts would drift back to that rainy night. To the boy with the solemn promise and the girl who squeezed her hand. She'd wonder where they ended up. Safe, she hoped. Loved. But the years gave no answers. No calls. No letters. No returns. But Clara never dwelled on it. That wasn't why she'd helped them. She had no expectations, no conditions. She believed in doing good simply because it was the right thing to do. That moment, that night, she had given from the heart, and then let go. Even when her legs ached and the tips she brought home barely covered the bills, Clara didn't complain. Her smile never left, and her kindness never faded. Because deep down, she carried a quiet truth that guided everything she did. She never expected anything back. Kindness was simply who she was. It was a warm, golden afternoon, the kind that made the wind chimes on Clara's porch sing softly in the breeze. She sat in her favorite rocking chair, a glass of sweet tea in hand, watching the world go by in slow motion. Life was quieter now, retirement loomed, money was tighter than ever, but she still found joy in the simple things, blooming petunias, birdsong, the smell of fresh pie cooling in the kitchen. Then she heard it, the low purr of an engine she didn't recognize. A sleek black luxury car rolled to a stop outside her modest home, its polished frame gleaming under the sun. Clara squinted, puzzled. She wasn't expecting company, and certainly not anyone who drove a car like that. The door opened, and out stepped a tall, sharply dressed man. Clara sat up, her heart picking up pace. He looked familiar, something in his eyes, in the way he stood. The man walked slowly toward the porch, then paused at the bottom of the steps. "Miss Clara?" he asked, his voice steady but thick with emotion. She stared for a moment, her breath catching. Then it hit her. "Daniel," she whispered. In 2 steps, he was up the stairs and pulling her into a hug, tight, grateful, full of years lost and memories never forgotten. Tears welled in his eyes, and Clara's hands trembled as she clutched the back of his suit. "I never forgot you," Daniel said, voice cracking. "You gave me more than food, you gave me hope. You showed me kindness when the world had turned its back on us." Clara's eyes filled, and she smiled through the tears. "You were just a boy." He pulled back slightly, looking into her eyes. "I was. But that boy grew up thinking of you every time he wanted to quit. Every time life got hard. I built something big. And now," he gestured toward the car and then back to her humble home, "it's my turn." The porch fell silent, but in that silence was a lifetime of love and gratitude, a moment neither of them would ever forget. The sun bathed Clara's front yard in a soft golden light as laughter filled the air, bright, joyful laughter from children playing tag beneath the shade of the old oak tree. Her once quiet home now buzzed with life. Painters worked on fresh coats of paint, new flower beds were being planted, and a sleek, new car gleamed in the driveway, a stark contrast to the rusted bicycle still leaning by the porch. Clara stood barefoot on the porch steps, her hands gently resting over her heart. Everything felt surreal. The home she had poured decades of quiet love into was being renewed, just like her spirit. She watched as Daniel helped a little girl tie her shoelaces, smiling like the boy she once knew. Behind him, a banner fluttered in the wind, the Clara Foundation, feeding hope, one child at a time. He had done it all. Paid off her mortgage. gave her a car. But more than that, he had built something that would last. A charity in her name dedicated to helping children in need, just like he once was. It was more than she could have ever dreamed of. And he made sure she knew, it was because of her. Clara's eyes welled up as a little boy ran up and handed her a daisy. "Thank you, Miss Clara," he beamed. She bent down, kissed his forehead, and whispered, "Thank you, baby." She looked out across the yard again, her soul overwhelmed with peace and gratitude. One small act of kindness, offering a warm meal to two cold, frightened children, had bloomed into something far greater than she ever imagined. Her voice cracked softly as she whispered to herself, "Kindness never fades, it echoes through time and returns when you least expect it." And in that moment, surrounded by joy, hope, and the sound of children's laughter, Clara realized, her story had come full circle.